Thank you, Zack Snyder.
Hello, Adam Ryan Donato.
Hello, welcome back to another Hard Review, and I am back here today to talk about The Flash. This is the last? No, it's not. It's not the last movie of the DCEU, but it probably should be, and that's probably my biggest reason why I enjoy this movie, and yes, I enjoyed this movie. I know it's very popular for everyone to dislike this movie, even though it does have a positive Rotten Tomatoes score both from critics and from audiences. I know it's bombing, I know it's got a lot of bad press around it, I know it's coming out in an absolutely terrible time, but I enjoyed this movie so much for what it was, which to me is a disaster piece. Some way, somehow, a movie that stars someone who's repeatedly done crimes, very recently, in awful, terrible crimes, a movie that comes out months after they decide to completely 86 the entire DCEU, even though we have several movies coming up. We hired James Gunn. Oh, we're gonna throw out mostly everything. We'll take whatever works, aka whatever is still working at the box office, and we're gonna move forward from all of this stuff. This movie that hasn't even come out yet, that you guys are about to see, doesn't matter a lick with what we're doing going forward. Like, this is literally like, it's like when you're in a relationship and you guys know, like, you're gonna break up soon. This is one of the last few times that you guys, like, do it. But through all of that storm, somehow this movie ends up being really enjoyable. I had a great time. I was laughing from start to finish. Now, it's been a minute since this movie came out, so I'm gonna talk about spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, this is a spoiler video. I'm sorry. So, they had me right from the baby in the microwave scene. I love Andy Muschietti. I love the first It movie. The second one is really good. It's not great as the first one is, but it's still really, really good, and I really like this director. I love his sense of humor, and that shines in this movie. Right from the baby scene, I was like, yes, it looks terrible, okay? I understand the CGI and the entirety of this movie is absolutely disgusting, sure. But it was just such a funny concept, and I really like that whole, like, mini Justice League scene, you know, Batman showing up and doing his part of the bit. I really don't like how they handle Wonder Woman, and I really don't like how they handle Wonder Woman in any movie that's not directed by Patty Jenkins. I just feel like they sexualize her a lot. Like, I brought this up to someone. I feel like we were doing, like, shots from, like, below up her skirt the whole time, and I was just like, okay, she's cooler than that. Also, the entire conversation when she shows up is just immediately about sex, and it's just like, I get it. I'm a dude. I'm always thinking about sex, and Gal Gadot is very attractive. Wonder Woman's more than just a sex object, you know? I don't know. I just feel like it was a little bit lowbrow. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that's the thing that we've done a million times. Like, oh, in Justice League, Flash lands his face in her boobies. The entirety of Shazam 2, we're just sitting there like, I have dreams about dating Wonder Woman. So I'm just done with that bit, but still, it's nice to, like, see these big characters just show up randomly here and there. Like, I really appreciate Gal Gadot being a team player and showing up in a lot of different things. I know that this universe isn't going to continue, but it's still cool to be like, hey, we have some amount of synergy going on here. So let's go through pretty much character by character here. Ben Affleck does not want to be here. Let's get that started off right away. He does not give a rip about any of this. I love the scene where Flash is like, hey, you want to go get dinner? Like, clearly Flash is going through some stuff, and Bruce Wayne is just like, oh, no. It's just so awkward. We could have gotten through all of this if that didn't happen. Batman should be past his, like, I was, like, all angry and I hated everyone in BVS, and I learned through the experience of that movie in Justice League that, like, hey, you know, maybe we need buddies, you know, and maybe we could have friends. But whatever, you know, clearly we're not focused on fleshing out that character, as he's never gonna get his own solo movie ever, but who cares? Meat and potatoes time. Guys, let's talk about Ezra Miller as the Flash. Now, I don't really care for him much in BVS because he's barely in that at all. I don't care for him much in Justice League. The whole, like, I don't understand brunch. Like, it's like lunch, but, like, you have to wait around and blah, 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 blah. I think there's a funnier scene in the Snyder Cut for Flash, but still, he's got that whole kind of dynamic with Batman where it's like, oh, I'm like the little sidekick and you're like the cool superhero and I want to be like you. You're kind of like my father figure mentor character. They really steal that whole Tony Stark and Peter Parker dynamic that Homecoming has throughout these movies, because obviously DC can't do anything on their own, so they're constantly looking over at Marvel being like, their Spider-Man's successful. Well, we'll make our Flash, he's like a kid too, and he really looks up to the figurehead of the whole entire universe, which is Batman or Iron Man, whatever, who gives a fuck, you know? I did feel for his situation with his father being in prison. I know that in Justice League, and I think the Snyder Cut as well, I think it's Billy Crudup who plays his dad, and here it's some other guy. I think I recognize him from other things, but he's not notable enough for me to know his name. Just a weird thing. Like, oh, we were able to get Wonder Woman back, but Billy Crudup, he was busy. But yeah, I really like that through line through this movie. I love the whole, like, obviously he's, talking to his dad all the time, and he's doing his whole entire career is just trying to solve the case of what happened to his mom and exonerate his father, especially the stuff with his mom. We get, like, a Meet the Robinsons-esque scene towards the end of the movie where he's just, like, coming face to face with his mom and, makes the decision to let her move on. I love how she, like, explicitly states the theme of the movie, like, right at the beginning. She's like, oh, sometimes problems can't be solved and you just gotta let things go. And it's like, yes. By the way, that's the overarching theme of this movie, and I think it's kind of a meta theme without them even, like, really knowing it. DCEU, sometimes things just can't be fixed, and you just gotta move on. And this movie really personified that for me. Like, a lot of people are saying that Guardians 3 is like a clean break to finish off the MCU. I kind of feel that way about this Flash movie. Like, after this, especially with the whole George Clooney ending and whatnot, I was like, oh, okay. Cool, I'm done. Like, that's perfect, And acknowledge how out of hand our regular universe has gotten. We are having fun. Let's get Michael Keaton back, and let's, reference this and this and this. And then at the end, it's like, you are banished to the Batman and Robin universe with George Clooney, or George Clooney's now our Batman. Who cares? It doesn't matter. That was hilarious. And I didn't see this movie for the entire opening weekend. I missed both early screenings of it. And somehow that did not get spoiled for me. I saw several interviews with George Clooney on, like, TikTok where he was, like, asked if he would ever come back as Batman. He was like, there would be riots on the streets. And I thought they were just asking because Michael Keaton came back for this movie, but yeah, I guess he's in this movie, and that was so funny. Ezra Miller, I feel like he holds his own in the dramatic scenes. I mean, we knew he was a good dramatic actor. He's great in Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I'm pretty sure he's in that movie We Need to Talk About Kevin. I haven't seen it, but I know people like him in that, I'm pretty sure. The comedic stuff, especially with the Flash, like the new Flash, like, because we have our OG Flash, and he goes back in time and he meets up with the younger version of himself. When he tries to make sure that the other version of himself gets his powers, he loses his powers and a tooth. A lot of this movie, we really need the new Flash to help us out because he actually has the powers. But it's actually a cool opportunity for us to kind of see Flash's origin, because we don't really get that in this movie. We get the whole, like, oh, I'm fast now. And by the way, I love the joke where he's like, does the whole Looney Tunes cartoon thing where he's just like... But yeah, I really got to feel that, like, youthful, like, oh, this is cool, I have powers now, like, feeling that I didn't really feel like I got in a lot of the DCEU movies. It just felt like a refreshing change of pace compared to everything else in this cinematic universe. Ezra Miller, I don't want to see him in anything else going forward. Obviously, I don't want a Flash sequel. I think he does a good job here. I think it's ridiculous and crazy that he was allowed to get away with this movie after everything that he did. But whatever. It's funny to watch and be like, wow, that's a criminal. Michael Keaton is in this movie. He's back as the 89 Batman from the Tim Burton movies. I think the suit looks good. I mean, it's kind of hard to acknowledge that that's an old man in there if, you can barely see him at all. I don't like the idea of bringing back people like this. I think it's super lame. By the way, all you nerds out there who love No Way Home but hate this, I'm sorry, it's the same picture. You're watching the exact same movie. I'm sure that the universe dressing of No Way Home is better. Yes, the special effects are better. All these things are better than it, but, like, I'm so much more invested in Spider-Man than I am in The Flash. So if you waste an entire Flash movie just being like, remember Michael Keaton? That's fine, because I don't even care about Flash anyways and didn't need a Flash movie. But Spider-Man I care about so much. So, like, when I watched that movie, I was like, this is like watching my little brother play with my childhood toys. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're not breaking them or anything. So, like, but, like, it wasn't as cool as when I played with them, back with the Sam Raimi movies. But here, I just don't give a shit about Flash or this entire cinematic universe anyways. I mean, clearly Warner Brothers doesn't either, so it's just funny to just let it burn, like, just watching it go down in flames. It's like watching a car accident and you can't really, like, take your eyes off it, and you're just like, wow. So I really enjoyed just, responding to this movie with, like, oh, remember Michael Keaton? I remember Michael Keaton. Because that's what people did with Spider-Man. They were just like, oh my god, the people from the movies I liked when I was a kid, blah, 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 blah. As a defender of this movie, thank God for not only James Gunn, obviously, but Stephen King and Tom Cruise coming out and being like, this is the movie that we need right now. And I'm like, you're damn right it is. Supergirl. I think she's really cool in this movie. I do think it's funny, though, how we're like, all right, so Henry Cavill, Clark Kent, Kal-El, Man of Steel, he was able to take down Zod and his whole army and that whole situation all by himself. But Kara, yeah, no. She sucks. I mean, I guess she was being tortured in some Russian prison somewhere, but she can't win. Even with multiple tries, 2 two Flashes and the OG Batman, and she still just can't win. She is destined to lose. That is so funny. Also, like, I don't understand that he's like, oh, I made a world without metahumans. It's like, no, you just time traveled back before the metahumans were, like, exposed. It's just a stupid superhero cameo time travel bullshit movie. I love how every single DC movie after Man of Steel is just acknowledging how ridiculous Man of Steel is. Like, oh, you think too many people died? Oh, don't worry, guys. Not only was Superman there doing his best, but Bruce Wayne was there saving people. And oh, by the way, also the Flash was there saving people. Not everyone died. There were only a couple 9/11s. It's not unlike X-Men Days of Future Past, where like everyone complains about the X-Men Fox universe, where it's like, oh, the timeline doesn't make any sense, and all these movies are all over the place, and they have no idea what they're doing. And somehow Days of Future Past comes out, and they're just like, bleh, put the old cast and the new cast together. Yeah, it works. Time travel. We did it, baby. And like here, yeah, you know, kind of who cares? Like, fuck it. You know what I mean? I feel like this movie's not really taking itself very seriously at all. That's one reason I really enjoyed it. I really like all the Batman 89 imagery. I love the jumping down from this thing and you see the bat ship and the moon and it's like, yeah. That's what Batman looks like. I love how the Flash makes a suit out of one of Batman's suits, and we see him like cutting the ears off, as if it's like, yeah, I can't have the ears on. I'm not a bat. I love some of the song choices in this movie. This too shall pass. All right. I love how they kill Batman too. I think that's really fucking funny. He's just like, hey, you brought me back. That's all I needed. I love how Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, Michael Keaton's Batman in this movie. No one's really talking about that because no one wants to talk about anything except how bad the CGI is. I don't really care. See, the CGI being good is not do or die for me. An Avatar movie, if you want to sit here and talk about how bad the story is and the characters are, or whatever, a movie can survive just with good visuals. That's fine if you're a very visual person and, you know, in the right circumstance, I could be. I'm not like, oh, the CGI was bad? Yeah, kill it. It's dead. It's over with. It's done. I still was invested in these characters and I thought the story was really fun. I love how we're able to really just focus on Barry Allen in this movie. Like, I asked someone before the movie if the villain was very good and he was like, oh, not really a villain, you know, and Zod's not really in it too much. I kind of enjoy that. I didn't really enjoy how at the end of the movie, the villain from the beginning is himself. Good internal conflict. I love how he's obsessed with correcting this timeline. He learns eventually, hey, this is inevitable. I'm watching myself go in circles and circles and circles and the same thing's happening over and over again because maybe some things are just inevitable and maybe I just need to move on. So I thought that was really cool. People talking about like multiple different endings with like Superman and Wonder Woman showing up to the courthouse. I don't need any of that shit. I don't need any of that. I hate Christopher Reeve, Superman, and also whoever plays Supergirl, whatever. But them being brought back with CGI just to be there like, that was so lame. I hated that so much. I hate that when they do that in Rogue One. I hate that anywhere. I think it's always a bad idea and dumb. I think it's really perverse, you know, to take someone's likeness, you know, especially like I think George Reeves, they did him as well. Can't consent to that. You are using someone's body without their consent to make money. And that's really, really weird. That being said though, I laughed so hard. Not only when Nick Cage showed up, because I knew about that too. I was spoiled about that and the Christopher Reeve cameo, but when the giant spider showed up, that was one of the funniest things I'll see all year. Now, I've watched that video where Kevin Smith answers that kid's question at Comic-Con or something, and he tells this 20-minute long story about his involvement with the death of Superman Lives, or no, that's the documentary about Superman Lives. Some Superman movie in the 90s that was supposed to come out after the Tim Burton Batman movies. It's supposed to star Nick Cage. John Peters, who produced the 89 Batman, was heavily involved with this process and had many conversations with Kevin Smith. In one of them, he insisted that there be a giant spider. I would love nothing more in this on-screen earth than to see what John Peters thought about this movie, if he's alive. I hope he's alive. If he's dead, I'll still hear it. Because that's just so hilarious to see his vision finally come to screen. Like, that's what this stuff is for. I want to see the things that almost happen. I want to see Will Smith Superman. You know, I know that wasn't that close to happening, but I want to see, I guess I don't want to see Armie Hammer as Batman. I mean, hey, why not? You know what I mean? If Ezra Miller can star in this movie, then why not? I thoroughly loved this movie. I had a great time with the after credit scene with Aquaman being drunk in the water. That's fine. I had a great time. I can't wait to watch this again because it's just such a fun, stupid movie. It's a really great hate watch. It's such a great, so bad that it's good. It's such a miracle that a movie with so many problems and so many deficiencies was able to be as enjoyable as it is. I really, truly love it as a disaster piece. So bad that it's good. Give me a 5 out of 5, baby. I love this one. Come at me. Yeah, I liked the movie. Yeah, take that. Ooh, I bet that one stings. What did you think about The Flash? Did you like it or did you hate it? Did you hate it? You really hate hated it, right? Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what your favorite DCEU movie is. The Joker movie does not count because it's not in the DCEU. I would go with The Suicide Squad, followed by Birds of Prey, and then Wonder Woman 84, and then this. Those are my 4 favorite DCEU movies. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, Adam, you like Wonder Woman 84 more than Wonder Woman? Yes.